In today's stories, a family tried to get a woman kicked out of her own vacation because she ordered a glass of wine. A grown man ignored an entire family dinner so he could watch anime. A mother spent years excluding her son in law from family events. And one guest managed to turn an engagement dinner into a disaster. I'll be reading all the stories while I continue playing my Minecraft world. Enjoy. So, first story, a woman was staying alone at an all inclusive hotel in the Canary Islands. The hotel seated guests at shared tables, so strangers often ended up eating together. One evening, she was enjoying dinner with a glass of wine when a family of five sat down beside her. Almost immediately, the mother looked at the wine and said, "We do not want our children exposed to women drinking alcohol." The woman thought she was joking. She wasn't. The mother seriously expected a complete stranger to stop drinking wine because her children were nearby. The woman calmly replied that if it bothered them, they could ask for another table because she wasn't putting her drink away. The family stayed, but immediately started making passive aggressive comments about the fact that she was eating alone. She ignored them and continued eating. A little later, she got up to visit the buffet. When she returned, her wine had disappeared. Before she could ask about it, a waiter approached and asked to see her wristband. Confused, she handed it over. The family had reported her to hotel staff and claimed she was underage and had sneaked away from her parents. Apparently, they thought they could get her removed from the restaurant. There was just one problem. She wasn't a teenager, she was a nurse in her 30s. The waiter realized what had happened almost immediately, apologized, and walked away. A few minutes later, he returned carrying a completely fresh glass of wine. The family watched the entire thing happen. The woman thanked the waiter, looked directly at the mother, and took a slow sip. The complaint had achieved absolutely nothing except getting her a free replacement drink. If you think that's ridiculous, wait until you hear about the next guy. A man organized a large family dinner. Not a casual meal, but a proper gathering that had been planned weeks in advance. Relatives traveled in, reservations were made. Everyone dressed nicely, and the evening was supposed to be a chance for the family to spend time together. Then his brother in law arrived. He sat down, put in his earbuds, opened anime on his phone, and started watching. At first, everyone assumed he was just finishing an episode. He wasn't. He watched anime for the entire dinner. He barely spoke to anyone, ignored most conversations, and hardly interacted with his own children sitting beside him. Family members tried including him several times, but every attempt ended the same way. A short response, then his attention went straight back to the screen. Somehow it got even worse. Whenever he wanted another drink, he didn't ask the waiter. He didn't say, "Excuse me." He didn't make eye contact. Instead, he picked up his empty glass and shook it in the waiter's direction until someone noticed. By the end of the evening, the man who organized the dinner had enough. He later told his sister that he wouldn't be attending another restaurant gathering if her husband was there. His sister immediately defended him, claiming he was simply introverted and uncomfortable around large groups. But he argued that being introverted doesn't mean ignoring your entire family while watching anime and treating restaurant staff like personal servants. He told her that if her husband hated family dinners that much, nobody was forcing him to attend, but he wasn't spending another evening watching someone sit through a family event as if everybody around him didn't exist. The next story sounds harmless at first, but once the details came out, people saw it very differently. A woman joined her family on a vacation organized by her mother. Everyone was invited: adult children, spouses, grandchildren, basically the entire family. A few days before the trip, the mother announced she wanted one special dinner with only her children. No spouses, no grandchildren. Just her and her kids, like when they were younger. At first it sounded reasonable. She explained that she wanted to recreate old memories and spend some time with her children, but there was an important detail. The woman's husband had lost both of his parents and had no family of his own left. According to his wife, her mother had spent years subtly excluding him from family activities. Nothing obvious enough to create a major argument, but enough to make him feel like an outsider. Every time there was a gathering, he somehow seemed slightly less included than everyone else. So when the dinner was announced, the wife started wondering whether this was really about nostalgia or just another excuse to leave her husband out. Eventually, she confronted her mother and told her that if her husband wasn't welcome, she wouldn't be attending either. Her mother's response surprised everyone. She immediately agreed to add him. No debate, no complaints, no argument. She simply updated the reservation, which proved she could have included him from the beginning. She had just chosen not to, and the final story might be the most frustrating one of all. A couple decided to host an engagement dinner at their home. They cooked everything themselves and spent hours preparing food for close friends and family. One guest arrived, looked at the food, and immediately became upset. She was vegan. The problem was that nobody knew. She had never mentioned it while the dinner was being planned. She never brought it up after receiving the invitation, She never sent a message beforehand. She simply showed up, saw that there were no vegan options, and became angry. She accused the hosts of being inconsiderate and claimed they should have asked every guest about dietary restrictions. She said she felt excluded and that a good host would have made sure there was something for everyone. Then she left. The hosts were completely stunned. What was supposed to be one of the happiest evenings of their lives had suddenly become an argument over a dietary preference they didn't even know existed. 2 weeks later, the guest finally contacted them, not to apologize, not to admit she should have said something beforehand. She simply asked whether there were any hard feelings. Unsurprisingly, there were. So, next story. A man had just lost his father after a long illness. Before he passed away, his father made one thing very clear. He had a will, and according to that will, most of his estate would go to his son. That included the family house and a large amount of money. His daughter would still receive something, but significantly less. The reason wasn't a mystery. For years, she barely had a relationship with her father. According to the son, their father spent years trying to reconnect, calling her, inviting her to family events, and reaching out whenever he could. But she constantly rejected him. Eventually, he stopped trying. When the will was finally read, she exploded. She immediately argued that the inheritance should be split equally because they were both his children. It didn't matter that the will was legal. It didn't matter that their father had made his wishes clear. She insisted that fairness mattered more than what was written in the document. The brother tried to stay calm and explained that he wasn't taking anything from her. He wasn't changing the will. He was simply respecting the decision their father had already made. But that answer wasn't good enough. Over the next few weeks, relatives began calling him selfish. Family members who hadn't spoken to him in months suddenly appeared with opinions about what he should do. Some told him he should share because it was the right thing to do. Others claimed the money was destroying the family. Then his sister changed tactics. Instead of arguing, she started trying to make him feel guilty. She talked about her financial struggles, how badly she needed the money, and how family should always come first. Every conversation somehow ended in the same place. She wanted part of his inheritance. He refused every time. As far as he was concerned, this wasn't his decision anymore. His father had already made that decision. The inheritance wasn't some prize he had won. It was his father's final wish. And if he ignored that wish just to keep everyone happy, then what was the point of having a will in the first place? The arguments continued for months. Family relationships became strained, gatherings became awkward, but no matter how much pressure people put on him, he never changed his mind. Because in his eyes, the real problem wasn't the money. It was that everyone suddenly cared about his father's wishes only when those wishes benefited them. And the last story. A man was only days away from getting married. He and his fiancée had been together for 3 years, and despite plenty of challenges, they had always managed to make things work. Money was tight, so they planned a small wedding instead of an expensive one. He paid for most of it himself, including the alcohol, tables, and decorations. At first, the biggest problem seemed to be that his future in-laws constantly wanted changes that weren't in the budget. More decorations, more expenses, more demands. Then his fiancée's older brother got involved. The man couldn't stand him. According to him, the brother constantly exaggerated stories, acted like he was the center of attention, and created problems everywhere he went. The situation became even worse because his fiancée always defended him. Every argument somehow ended with her taking her brother's side. Tension kept building until the rehearsal dinner. The dinner was supposed to be a small gathering before the wedding. Instead, it turned into complete chaos. Relatives kept showing up uninvited. Several family members got drunk. His future mother-in-law became loud and argumentative. Conversations turned into shouting matches. People ignored the schedule completely. When they were supposed to be watching a presentation, nobody was paying attention because the brother was busy telling jokes and making everything about himself. The groom repeatedly asked his fiancée to do something about it. She tried a little, but nothing changed. As the night continued, he looked around and realized something. Nobody respected him. Nobody respected the event. And worst of all, the person who was supposed to be his future wife wasn't standing up for him. His own family looked uncomfortable. His children had to watch the entire disaster unfold. At some point, he reached his breaking point. He quietly asked his friends to help him load all the alcohol and supplies he had paid for into their cars. The moment people realized what was happening, the atmosphere changed instantly. The party stopped. Conversations ended. Everyone went silent. His fiancée started crying and promised her family would apologize, but for him it was already too late. The rehearsal dinner hadn't ruined the wedding. It had exposed a problem that had been growing for years. A few days later, he officially canceled the wedding. Not because of one bad night, but because he realized that if his future wife couldn't stand beside him now, she probably never would. And just like that, it was all gone. So that's all for today. I really hope you guys enjoyed. Drop a comment and subscribe if you like this video. See you in the next one.